This is Jewish Talk, the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC, streaming live on the college station. You can see us and hear us on tunein.com and on iHeartRadio app. And all week long, you will find this program posted on Spreaker.com. I'm Rabbi Pearl, and today we are going to look at an important subject. But first, our question is a little on the lighter note. Why is the synagogue coat room such a war zone? Let's talk about the craziest and most dangerous aspects of going to synagogue. That, of course, is the coat room. Especially during the cold weather months, the synagogue coat room is not a faint of heart or for those who are or claustrophobic. If you suffer from any of these problems, you got a problem. In fact, if you want to experience the chaos felt by the Jewish people during the Exodus from Egypt, just spend a few minutes in the synagogue coat room immediately following the Shabbos morning services. What is the synagogue coat room? Why is it? Why is it the coat room is such a war zone? Why does the coat room get so insane that the only coats that should be hanging in there should be straitjackets? Well, it comes down to the fact that we, the Jewish people, have a very hard time finding our coats. But of course, there's more to this. And as most scholars agree, there are several reasons for this phenomenon. First, we seem to easily forget where we hung our coats. It's like forgetting where you parked your car at the mall or where you left your remote control. Of course, it's not nearly as bad as forgetting where you left your stroller, especially if your newborn is still fast asleep inside of it. Second, Jews wear very similar dark-colored coats, as if federally regulated, so it's easy to get confused. If we were smart, we would put our last names on the backs of our coats, just like professional athletes do on the backs of their jerseys. And yes, just like pro jerseys, our coats should have numbers too, with all rabbis wearing number 5. Why? Of course, for the 5 books of the Torah. Number 10 for the 10 commandments. Or number 365 for the number of days during the year that rabbis are expected to be on call. For this reason, being a cantor is much better gig because they're very low likelihood of someone calling you up in the middle of the night for an emergency vocal performance, right? I mean, no one ever calls up the chazan at 3 in the morning, please start singing the Hineni or Keil Malarachamim, who knows what. Third, those using the coat room often are victims of a group I call the upgraders. These clever coatmongers strategically wear inferior jackets to synagogue, and then, when services are over, accidentally grab the wrong coat, which so happens to be superior in every way. This cannot be a coincidence or an innocent mistake because the upgraders are always upgrading. In other words, you will never see an upgrader arrive in the synagogue wearing a mink coat and then leave with a North Face fleece. Fourth, in the coat room, we also fall victim to gossip, overly acquisitive nosy parkers, or in the courtroom context, nosy parkers, who distract us with a barrage of horrifying, intrusive inquiries. What's your net worth? Have you always had that terrible acne? Or why doesn't anyone want to be your friend? As a result of such frightening interrogations, many scared congregants flee the coat room, leave their coats behind, choosing to shiver outside in the cold rather than inside in fear. Fifth, sometimes we are betrayed in the coat room by disloyal, cutthroat acquaintances known as turncoats, who quietly and competitively hunt for open hangers with laser focus and Darwinian aggression. The turncoats will not even acknowledge your presence until all of their precious garments are hanging safely and comfortably. You know what I'm talking about. Then, all of a sudden, the turncoats turn into your best friends and insincerely offer fake assistance, knowing full well they've already snagged the last available hangers. Sixth, in the coat room, we also fall prey to those who are too lazy to search for empty hangers and instead obnoxiously hang their coat right over the top of your coat. I call them overcoats, and I'm always shocked how this selfish bunch does not care about the havoc caused by their underhanded coat camouflage. Adding to this audacity, the overcoats tend to take their sweet old time retrieving their coats. All the while the victims circle the coat room, dazed and confused. Where's mine coat? Where's mine coat? Seventh, my friends. Seventh in understanding why the synagogue coat room is such a war zone. You see, in the coat room lurks those who insist on hanging up their coats right next to your coat in order to improve their own perceived social status. Pathetically, this group will even bring their own hangers to the synagogue just to make sure they wind up alongside you. I call these psychos the hanger-ons, and they wind up making the coat room even more chaotic and emotionally, of course, exhausting. Finally, we need to realize that synagogue coat rooms simply are not designed to handle every congregant's coat. Remember in the movie Titanic, when there is that chilly realization that the ship does not have enough lifeboats? Well, synagogue coat rooms have a similar problem. That means not enough hangers. It's a disaster just waiting to happen, and the proverbial iceberg is a large event when hordes of coat wearers flood the coat room, submerging in a sea of jackets, ponchos, and Canada Goose. When that happens, it's every man, woman, and child for themselves. But even if you don't find your coat, don't worry. Just grab someone else's coat. Take comfort that your coat eventually will be found, worn, and cherished by others. In that moment, channel, the epic Titanic theme song and passionately sing, "Here, far, wherever you are safe in my coat, and my coat will go on and on." With this in mind, my friends, I'm in one of those moods today. I'd like to talk about schmutz. Schmutz is a Yiddish word that means doit, D-U-R-T, or grime. Properly pronounced, it should rhyme with puts and cuts. It's sometimes spelled schmutz or schmooze. Metaphorical schmutz, something profane or lewd, can be described with an adjective schmutzidig or schmutzig, which functions like dirty in English. Here's an example. Oi, that joke was schmutzig. Schmutzidig. Biology, keeping clean is important in Judaism. Before sitting down to a meal, we wash our hands. This hand washing is followed by a short blessing and has almost nothing to do with physical cleanliness, taking place after your hands are already clean. So before washing for bread, make sure to wash your schmutzidige hand, your grubby hands. In Judaism, it is super important not to use foul language. So many people may need occasional reminders to close their schmutzidige moil, their dirty mouths. Now let me tell you what schmutz isn't. Prior to Passover, when every bit of chametz, leavened grained product, must be removed from the house, using shmatas, of course, it is important to remember the adage, schmutz is not chametz. Grime is just grime. A trace of schmutz, shemetz, a loan word from the Hebrew, means trace, implying the tiniest amount of something. Technically, one can have a shemetz of schmutz, but these two words have no etymological link. I know that everybody's fascinated with this, wondering why they even got up this morning to listen to this program. But flying, I want to share with you a Hasidic tale about schmutz. There was once a young bird who only knew of her mother's nest. She began to feel that the nest was small and dirty. Worst of all, it smelled horribly. The more the poor chick sniffed, the worse the place seemed to smell. Finally, she felt compelled to fly off on her own in search of a more wholesome environment. Flying unsteadily, she made her way to a nearby barn and made herself comfortable. At last, it took only a few minutes, for her to discover that there was a stench there as well, just as bad as the nest she had left. She hopped into the barnyard and tried to find a comfortable spot, but it also stank. She went from place to place. Wherever she went, she found an awful smell. Finally, discouraged and disillusioned, she returned home to consult with her mama bird. "Little Boyd," said her mother, "the world doesn't smell. It is just a piece of schmutz stuck to your beak." And of course, this reflects the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, that if you see a flaw in someone else, it's because you yourself have the same blemish. In a sense, the other is merely mirroring your own schmutz for you to see and to correct. Let me continue, my friends, and I appreciate everybody listening to us and joining us every Sunday. This is Rabbi Pearl, and as you know, I'm speaking to you right out of NASA Community College, 90.3 FM, and we can be heard all over the world, and you can tune in to this program that's reposted, archived on Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com, and you can listen to it and a rebroadcast. As we continue, do we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? It's a very, very important subject. We hold these truths to be self-evident. I'm sharing you the words that are written in the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. Again, these are the words from the Declaration of Independence. The Founding Fathers of America were unabashed in their assertion and recognizing that it was God who endowed all men with certain inalienable rights. But are human rights a divine endowment? Is there a biblical verse that promises mankind the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? The answer is, my friends, no. The Torah doesn't talk about human rights, but it certainly talks about the sanctity of human life, describing the first man and woman as being created in the image of God. In Torah, all people are held accountable for their failures, king and common man alike. In fact, the leaders are often held to even higher standards than the layperson. Moses, for example, is criticized for the smallest infraction, and kings are reproved harshly by the prophets when they act out of line. In Jewish law, the rich man and the pauper are to be treated equally before the judge. Standing by passively when someone else is being hurt is a crime. If orphans or widows cry out to God because they are being mistreated, God considers this as a personal offense. The principles of enlightenment, liberty, equality, and individualism are based upon Judaic principles. In the writings of the European enlightened thinkers such as John Locke, the Hebrew Bible is cited more than any other writings combined. It's not surprising that John Adams, the second president of the United States, writes, "I will insist that the Hebrews have done more to civilize men than any other nation. If I were an atheist and believed in blind eternal fate, I should still believe that fate had ordained the Jews to be the most essential instrument for civilizing the nations." Powerful words. The American colonists felt that their entrepreneurial and political rights were being violated, a smack in the face of modern enlightened principles, and they weren't going to stand for it. They fought for their freedom, and once independence was won, the fledgling and idealistic American government was committed to protecting that freedom. And so America became a country of rights. Not only our right to freedom and democracy, but the rights